Sparking Dog here. We're going to tear down a CR250 engine today. Got a pretty nice little work stand here. And a couple of plugs. These are just Walmart mechanics gloves. These things are great for keeping your hands clean. They're like $8. Pretty dang durable. Well, I've already got the stator cover off to get the clutch cable unhooked. And there's the cover for back there. I've got a metal pan here for all the engine bolts. And I have some cardboard lined shelves already ready to go. We might as well pull the flywheel up there first thing. I'm going to use some air power for that, by far the easiest way to do it. This is a 1988 model. All the CR250s, from about 85 or 86 up to, well, even into the 2000s, they're all pretty much similar. This will give you a really good idea if it's not your exact model. There should be a washer underneath the nut. Is very important to get that off there. Of course, my little magnet doesn't fit in there. I believe this is the right puller. It is. I believe that's a 27 by 1.5 pitch left hand or backwards thread. Easy enough to just Google your model on eBay or Amazon and it didn't seem like it screwed in there very far. Well, maybe it did. You want to make sure that you have your center bolt loosened up far enough that you're not bottoming out on it first. Yeah, it seems like it's screwed in there pretty good. Just snug. It doesn't have to be crazy tight. Very important to lubricate the threads anytime you're using a threaded puller. You should never do that dry. I like to run the slack up by hand like that so it doesn't slam against the flywheel when you use air. Now if you're thinking of doing this without the proper puller, forget it. Buy the proper puller, you're going to ruin something if you don't. That's like a $12 part. If you strip the threads out on the flywheel, then good luck getting it off. And you will really wish you spent the $12 on the right puller. Like on my other engine teardown videos, a block of wood is extremely helpful. Now, one thing that I've got lately in the last year or so, which I can't say enough about, is the Makita impact driver with the quick change tips. Man, has this thing saved me a bunch of time. Still very much recommend the Harbor Freight gloves. Maybe about $10 for a box of 100. I get the mid-grade ones. The light ones tear really easy. The heavy ones are really thick. WD-40 always makes my nose run. Stator. I believe the clutch arm should just kind of slide out of there really easy. Which that one certainly doesn't want to do. Well, it's still got a whole bunch of tension on it. So we'll just leave it there for now. Got a few case bolts for the long 8mm is necessary to use, so I might as well just hit those now while I got it in there. Intake boot. Reed valve. One thing, I can't play music anymore. I used to like to play some music. Well, I like to play music when I'm tearing stuff down. I still do that. But I can't play music anymore making a video, or YouTube's automatic software stuff picks up the song of, you know, computer. I don't know how they do it. The computers analyze the song or whatever. And then you get hit with copyright infringement, and the artist gets to monetize your video, and you have nothing you can do about it. Which I kind of think is weird, but whatever. I can see their point, but I don't know. I mean, I was just listening to music just casually in the background. I didn't think anything about copyright infringement, but apparently it is. I'm not sure the little impact here will snap that bolt loose. We'll see. Nope, but the ear will. You don't have to have air power to do this, but it sure makes it nice. I think I'll probably take the cylinder off fairly complete on this one, and then break the cylinder down. By itself. As long as I got the air hooked up. Might as well use it on the head. Batty would probably do those, but yeah, I already got it sitting right there with the right size socket. Pretty nice cylinder head, no fitting. Cylinder looks pretty good. If you hear a little noise in the background, that would be my monitor. That would be my two younger kids upstairs converting their dinner into pure energy. That even has LED lights on it that lights up what fastener you're putting it on. That thing's just incredible. Huge time saver. Now, it's actually been a few years since I have done a CR motor. I don't remember if I have to undo any tie rod. I don't think I do on the power valves. Been a while since I did a CR motor. I believe the Kawasaki one's the one you have to undo. The Hondas, I don't believe. I think the tie rod just pulls out of the bottom. 5-in-1 painter's tool comes in pretty handy. You're not going to hurt any mating surfaces as long as the metal moves. If the metal's stuck for any reason and you go in here with screwdrivers and pry bars and prying tools, if something's stuck, you're going to ruin the mating surface. As long as everything moves, you're good. There's a cylinder. We'll set that aside. Which had quite a bit of antifreeze in it. Always good to be ready for spills. I think I forgot to drain the cylinder while it was still on the bike, you know, or I'm sure the whole water jacket was still full. No big deal. Safety glasses are a good thing for pulling the circlip. These circlips can go flying. I usually put my thumb over them to prevent that, but they can still go flying. Be prepared. I have a 9mm deep socket that I've never found any use for except for pushing piston pins out. Fits in there about perfectly. I think I have yet to find a 9mm bolt head. Yeah, that was the wrist pin bearing. We'll get that later. No big deal. Yeah, there's the tie rod on the Hondas. They are not mechanically connected. if that's a chunk of dirt or what it is. I'll set that aside. Whoa. Yeah. Whoops. That's the thing I forgot to do, apparently. No big deal. About a shot glass full of antifreeze, an ounce or so. Not much of a prying surface on that one. There are no prying points, I guess you'd say. That should be about it for the coolant. Always a good idea to be prepared for oil or coolant coming out. I mean, obviously, I hope you drained your radiators and stuff first, but and your engine oil. But there very well could still be a few ounces of fluid in that engine. Impeller and a brass washer. On the guide pins, if they're stuck, I leave them. If they're loose, pull them out. Theory is they will get lost in the parts cleaner. Probably be a good idea to take a piece of cardboard, poke some holes in it with an awl, and then you can mark it clutch cover and poke holes in the circle and, you know, poke the bolts back in there, or put them in a bag. I'm not going to be putting this back together, so it doesn't matter to me, but it may matter to you. For all the clutch parts, I'm going to use a magnetic pan with a paper towel on it. Clutch centerpiece. And a ball. Push rod's not quite ready to come out. Got one of those little washers that is bent over in one spot to retain it. On the clutch sitter nut. Looks like a 27mm game. Got my tripod sitting right in the way of the toolbox. Half-inch drive air impact. Hold the rod back. It's not going to snap out of your hands. Never had one even come close to snapping out of my hands. Nut, washer. Shim. Got one bolt in there that somebody's replaced with a 10mm head. Should have all been 8s. Make sure you got all your bolts out, and I generally like to tap right there on that neck on the water pump. Generally a little bit stiff coming up over the kickstart shaft. I like to keep the block of wood under there and keep the engine tipped up, the right hand side of the engine up, the clutch side up, to keep any oil out. There's going to be a bit more oil in there. I can guarantee that. Won't be much, but it's going to start spilling out if you don't tip the engine up. We want to get the water pump drive shaft out of there after I drain this. I also have a drain pan handy down there. Pretty easy to lift the clutch fibers and steels out now. Clutch boss and another shim. Clutch basket assembly. Bearing. And a collar. And that's about it. Pair of farmer type pliers, pretty useful. Works good for getting the tension off the spring of the kick shaft, which comes right out. Honda does not have a shim behind it. Kawasaki does. Generally speaking, two-stroke wise. That was the kick idle gear. It just slides off there, unlike the Kawasaki's, which, if you see my other video, can deal me a big old fit. .14mm, hold the crank rod. And it should walk right off there. Not always. And that's going to be a stubborn one, of course. Got a leaking air hose. Those things sure don't last for too awful long. A lady slipper bar, usually. The pop goes right off there. I guess beware if it's really stuck. I mean, if you're beating on the lady foot, lady slipper, it's shaped like a little lady slipper. If you're beating on that, you may want to go to a gear puller or something. I've never had to. It's just interference fit. And that is a stubborn one. I'll give that just a little baby tap. Boy, that's a really tight one. They usually just pull off just fingers. Just doesn't want to walk at all. Somebody could have put Loctite on there on the splines. There's about ready to come out. There's your primary gear. Now the motor only weighs about, 30 or 40 pounds. It's pretty lightweight now. Now is the point where I'm just going to bring it over here to the oil drain pan, and I'm going to tip it up. Clutch side pointing straight down. There's nothing there that will really fall out. And I'm going to get about a half pint of oil that just does not come out of the drain plug. Now before I do that, I'm going to tip it down almost flat. I intentionally did not pull the shift shaft out yet, because if I did, the oil would just run out the other side where the shift shaft was poking out. It's going to be a little bit stiff. There it comes. There's your shift shaft. Pretty easy to get out. Now if you've ever been a shift shaft, I've had to go in with a sawzall or a die grinder or an angle grinder with a cutting wheel and cut it off right up close to the case, because you crash and that's the stub end sticking out is what gets bent, and that will never come back out being bent. So you got to cut that off, and then sometimes still even take a hammer and a punch and tap them out of there. But if you got a bad shift shaft, that's it. Not too hard to get out. In fact, I think you could probably do a shift shaft without pulling the engine out. That should not be a problem. Okay, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to drain the oil out. I'm going to get my kids in the bathtub, so when I come back, you might hear even more screaming. They get pretty wild.